All right, and for those of you that perhaps were not here on Tuesday night, we did finish the Siman about trapping. And we are going to be moving on now to Shin Yud Zayin, which is Din Kshira Va'aniva B'Shabbos, the laws of tying. And Aniva means like making a loop on Shabbos, but it's also about untying.
Rabbi, by the way, Bechila.
Yeah.
About public ceremony, Dixie, right? They have Ma'ev Mashiach, and in and out, like we said, and we're allowed to buy bread.
Okay.
Fine. I'm not mechadash anything for you, but
right.
For me, it's yes chidush. I didn't know. I thought.
Okay.
I thought they ship it for when Dixie doesn't do that bread. Oh yeah, it's
okay.
A chidush for me.
Okay, so here's the story, my friends. One of the 39 malachas is tying a knot. Another one is untying a knot. And in case you wonder where they tied knots in the Mishkan, so they tied knots. No, zelo kesher, zelulaut. It's like a clasp. That's a clasp. They tied knots when they captured the chilazon. They made nets. They made nets to capture the chilazon. And sometimes they had to make bigger nets. Sometimes they had to make smaller nets. So sometimes they untied the knots that they had previously tied. So that's called part of the malachas, because they had to do it in their work for preparing the
What did they do with the chilazon?
They needed it for tchelet.
Oh.
They made tchelet out of the blood of the chilazon. So they had to capture it. And for it to capture it, they had to make nets. So it's interesting. I mean, I didn't look into it, but it is interesting. What's the pshat? Is the pshat that the Jewish people actually went to the ocean and captured the chilazon? Is that what it means? And that's why it's part of the 30 malachas? Or is it that they used the tcheles, which they bought from merchants, and those merchants had to trap them? And that's also 39 malachas in terms of the preparation for it. Or is it no? 39 malachas is only things that the Jewish people themselves did. I don't know the answer to that question. I wonder. Anyway, something to think about now that we're in this parsha. So, in order to be chayev, I'm just giving a brief introduction. In order to be chayev for making a knot, one is only chayev if it is a kesher shel kayama. Kesher shel kayama means a permanent knot. The definition of a permanent knot, according to the Rosh and Rashi, is simply that the person intends to leave it till whenever.
Like tzitzit.
Tzitzis, yeah. Exactly. Tzitzis is permanent. You don't plan to ever take them off. Now, maybe they'll come off. Maybe you will take them off one day if you decide. Maybe. But as far as you know, you don't have any specific intention to remove it. So it's till further notice. You're making a knot to last until whenever. That's called the kesher shel kayam. The Rambam and the Rif add another condition for the kesher to be considered a kesher shel kayam, and that is that it has to be a kesher of an uman, a kesher of a craftsman, an expert who really knows how to make strong knots, so that not only will it last forever, but that it actually has a strength to last forever. So,
if no one's going to touch something, I think what strength to stay tied.
Well, usually knots are tied because these things are things that do get touched and that do get moved around. And you do. I'm just saying, if you tie your shoes, because when you walk with your shoes, if it's not tied and it's not tied well, it's going to come apart. And the same thing if you're tying, most things that you're tying, it's because you're using it.
Usually in the boat, you tie it really.
Oh, so that's an example. the sailors would make a knot when they would want to be able to attach their ship to something when they come to dry land. So at the prow, is that what it's called? Prow? On the front of the boat, they want to have a loop so that when they come to the shore, they can tie another rope through that loop. Understand? I'm sure they do. And that loop is made of whatever material, a rope of some sort, and it's tied with the intention that it should basically stay there forever. I mean, maybe it will break, okay, they'll make it again, but it's pretty much a knot until further notice. But it's also made by the sailors who know how to make strong knots. It's not stam. Another example is the knots made by shoemakers. So let's say you have a leather shoe and you want to make a strap. So you want to put the strap through the part of the shoe that's the sole, and you want that to be held in place. You want to make a knot. No, I'm talking about the shoe itself. Not talking about I'm not talking about the person who puts on the shoe. I'm talking about the shoemaker who makes the shoe. And let's say it's a sandal that has a
bow.
No, it might have maybe around it also if it goes through the sole, and then a
style going like around.
A knot to hold it in place. So that's also a.
It's what style with the sandal? Yeah.
Could be. I wasn't talking about a style. I was talking about something that actually holds the ankle. Welcome. So all of these are made by professionals with intention that they should last until further notice. We're learning Shin Yud Zayin about kosher and matter. So this is the opinion of the Rambam and the Rif. Okay, now if you have a knot that you are planning to leave for a certain amount of time, but more than a day, some say it's more than 7 days, so that is semi-permanent. Meaning to say, if it would be for less than a day, or if it would be for less than 7 days, according to the more lenient opinion, that would be called a completely temporary knot, and it would be permissible to make it. If, however, you are planning to keep it for more than a day or 7 days, depending on the opinions, but you are planning to take it apart after a certain amount of time. Some say it means less than 30 days. Some say, no, it means any time, whether it's a month, 2 months, even a year, as long as you have a certain time that you're planning to take it apart, that makes it no longer be considered a kesher shal kayam. As long as you have a certain date in mind, not a kesher. Kesher shal kayam means indefinitely. So that is called a kesher that is asar mid'Rabbanan, but is not asar mid'Oraisa. Now for your information, another kesher, which is asar mid'Rabbanan, but not asar mid'Oraisa, is, according to the Rambam and the Rif, who say that it's asar to make, that in order for it to be an iser d'oraisa, the permanent knot has to be professional. They will also say that if you make a professional knot, even if it's not permanent at all, meaning to say it's mamish for an hour, nevertheless it's forbidden, just because it's a permanent knot. So according to the Rambam and the Rif, in order for something to be chayiv, it has to have two chumras, two strict aspects. In order for it to be permissible, it has to have two lenient aspects. And if it has one lenient and one strict, then it's going to be d'Rabbanan. What do I mean? In order for it to be forbidden on a Torah level, it has to be permanent and it has to be a craftsman's knot. Uman, that's what we'll call Uman, craftsman. In order for it to be permissible, it has to be a non-craftsman and temporary. If it's one or the other, but not both, then it's Darabana. That means if it's a craftsman knot, even if it's not permanent at all. If it's not permanent, if it's somewhat permanent, let's be specific. If it is either permanent or somewhat permanent, and it's not a craftsman, it's going to be Darabana. Okay, as long as it's not a craftsman, it's going to be Darabana. Whether it's, if I get this straight, as long as it's not a craftsman, it's for sure not going to be the Araisa, right? If it's permanent or semi-permanent, it's going to be Darabana. If it's not permanent at all, it's going to be Mutar.
Permanent at all.
Correct.
Like the shoelaces.
Okay, so shoelaces are usually not permanent. Most people take on your shoes, take off your shoes, you untie, you tie your shoes. It's not mixoi. Regular.
The same thing, like nice, have to be
nice,
like
beautiful. It's not mixoi. Everybody does it. It's a regular knot. Oh, actually, one second. Here's the thing. So if you do a regular one knot and a loop on top of it, that is a perfect example of something that is definitely not considered professional. And as long as you usually untie your shoes within a day, you're good. However, the Rama is going to say that we actually don't know what a professional knot is. And therefore, he says, a double knot should be considered a professional knot. And therefore, according to the Rambam and the Rosh, even if you plan on tying and untying your shoes many times, a professional knot is forbidden. And therefore, double knot is maybe a professional. Yes, for sure, Rabbi, because it's not for
so
it's not
it's
forever.
better to do only one knot? Or not?
Yeah, a knot and a loop. Sorry?
Well,
According to the Rambam, it's a Vada Derban. According to the Rosh, it's Vadai Mutter. According to the Rosh, it's Vadai Mutter. According to the Rambam, it's also Derban.
the Rosh said it could be, the Rosh would agree, could be that the Rosh would agree with it. It's
Right.
No.
professional too, double not professional.
No.
Or what
The
if
Rambam, the Rama is explaining that according to the Rambam, that we have to be strict by a professional knot. You should just know we don't know what a professional knot is. So any knot that is strong, like a double knot, should be treated like a professional knot. According to the Rosh, there is no such thing as a professional knot. We don't care about it. It's not. It doesn't come into any discussion according to the Rosh.
Question.
Yes.
Let's say the shoes is like that. You're allowed to take another knot, so
No.
it will not open?
No.
That's
That's exactly what you're not allowed to do.
So leave it like only one knot.
Yeah.
I'm also not allowed to untie my double.
That's correct.
So according to the Rambam, the Rosh, which was around masculine, like double having them.
Yeah.
Okay, so if shoes are double knotted or you're not allowed to double knot your shoes on Shabbat, according to the Rambam, to the Sephardi opinion, I mean, according to the Rosh, you wouldn't need it to be. You'll never have a. You don't need a kasher one for it to be.
Right. According to the Rosh, you don't need a kesher woman to on the contrary. It makes no difference if it's kesher woman, and therefore it's permissible.
Because it's temporary.
Because it's temporary. As long as it's less than 24 hours, there's no knot that is forbidden according to the Rosh.
As long as it's temporary.
Exactly.
So if I mean, I'm going to ask the example of tie. What if I keep my ties knotted?
Like you take your shoes like that,
Saturday
from the
morning.
back. You go in the bed, you're
If you
tired.
keep your
just
ties knotted, then what more time?
slide it outside.
If I tie my Shabbat day and I want to leave it like that, according to the Rosh, it would be
We allowed to do a tie right for sure.
What would be, sorry, I was
I'm asking,
distracted.
if a tie is tied on Shabbat day and he wants to leave it like
A tie is tied
exactly
on
to
Shabbat
the way I
day.
want it.
You want to leave it like that for the next Shabbos, you say.
person, Shabbat.
So here's the thing. When you made it, you're not allowed to have an intention that you're going to keep it for the next Shabbos.
No.
Once you made it, you can keep it for the next Shabbos.
Your intention before making the nut cannot be that.
Exactly. And it can't be that you always leave it. If you always leave it for the next Shabbos, then your intention is not going to help. If you sometimes do, sometimes don't, and you had no specific intention, then you can do it. And if you decide to leave it, you can leave it.
But even according to the, even according to that opinion, if I would do it, I would have to take it out within 24 hours. Is that what the getter is? 24 hours?
You would definitely not be allowed to make it if you are for sure not planning to keep it for 24 hours. The minute you think that you're definitely not keeping it for 24 hours, you have a problem. If you think maybe I'll take it out after Shabbos, maybe next week, I don't know, whatever. That is okay. As long as you don't specifically know that you're not going to leave it and you don't always leave it, then it's okay. Now, that being said, I don't really know for sure what knots are considered professional.
Right,
So,
also, if a double knot's considered professional according, if it's a suffix, professional knot.
it is a suffix. So how do you decide about ties? Like
I
what's
would
the,
think it's much more difficult to do than a double knot.
right? So that's the question. That's the question. Actually, after I learned this last time, I started making a different sort of tie. Instead of a,
The fact that a regular knot, it might be a professional knot, and the fact that they have to say that it's specifically a professional knot and none of the other knots implies that there are other knots. What other knots are there other than the regular knot that would be?
I'm sure it's complicated.
there's a lot of knots. I mean, you can go to the websites and find them
Most
out.
of them are clearly professional knots, like all the sailor knots and everything like that. Is there anyone that's so generic that everyone uses besides the regular knot that everyone uses on their feet that would qualify as that?
I'm not the knot expert. I am not a knot expert, but I will say that the whole point of the professional knots is that they're strong. So the fact that it's not known to everybody doesn't make it strong. You know what I'm saying? It could be there's certain knots that can be done, but they're not what we're calling professional. We're calling professional. You would say that they're done in a professional way that enables them to last
There's a different.
for a longer time. That's the point. It's not just that not so many people know them. See what I'm saying?
But there are different.
That's one thing. That's why they're more strict on the double knot. He says it's strong. So once it's strong, it could be that's considered professional.
Also, I don't understand. Is it the knot that can't last more than a day, or is it the person's? Is it the type of knot that can't last more than a day, or is it the person letting the knot last more than a day? What's a kesher shakayam? Is it in the knot or is it in the person?
So again, according to the Rambam, if it's a professional knot, it's always going to be asad rabba, no matter what his intention is. So we have to put that on the side. You understand? If it's not a professional knot, right, or according to the Rosh for that matter, who doesn't care about that, so then the definition of kesher shel kayama, at least in a semi shel kayama, right? Kayama means that the person intends to leave it indefinitely.
It's the person.
The person.
It's not the type of knot. Is the type of knot that would last indefinitely?
No. Maybe it could be that if it's a type of knot, maybe that overrides his specific intention. That's the chiddush already. You
I
understand?
always thought it was that. I always
No.
thought it was a type.
No, that's the chiddush. It's a chiddush. I did come across that actually in the Dir now. That's the chiddush. The simple pshat is, if it's in his mind that it's lasting indefinitely, then it's chayev, and that's for sure the pshat. That's for sure the halacha, regardless of the fact that this knot other people wouldn't. You know what I'm saying? Wouldn't keep it. If he is personally planning to leave it indefinitely, that's chayev, at least according to the Rosh, according to the Rambam, if it's a professional knot, and so on. Maybe if everybody would leave this sort of thing forever, even if he wouldn't, and he was not planning to, maybe it's also chayev. That is a chiddush, you understand? But the main understanding is that it's in his mind. in his mind. And when it comes to temporary or semi-temporary, it's also in his mind. And as the Mefarshim explained, it doesn't mean you have to know for sure you're going to undo it within 24 hours, but you have to be in your mind thinking that you may do it within 24 hours. Yes.
There's difference between the Sephardic and Ashkenazi.
Yes.
What?
The Sephardim paskin like the Rambam and the Rosh,
What they say.
Rambam and the Rif,
So you
Rambam
can
and
do
the
whatever
Rif.
you want with the shoes.
No, on the contrary, exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. That according to the Rambam and the Rosh, we are strict and we say that any professional knot, which includes a double knot, we have to be strict and not make it and not untie it either.
So how come all the Sephardic the shoes with the tie?
Just don't do a double knot. No problem.
Just one tie?
Yeah. One knot and a loop. Sorry? I didn't see him yet, no. Now the Ashkenazim, by the way, are choshesh for both shitas. So they're choshesh for the Rambam as well.
There's no.
The difference is, and this is where I would like to see what Yaakov Yosefia says. The difference is that the Ramah says that if a person is in a mokum tsar, he can undo a knot that's professional but temporary. In other words, by mistake, he made a double knot on his shoes. Nebuch, he can't fall asleep with the shoes. And go to sleep with the shoes. I mean, what should he do? So it's a mokum tsar. So first of all, it's only Nesidrabban, even according to the Rosh, because it's not permanent. Second of all, the Rosh says it's completely permissible. So the mokum tsar, the Ramah permits it. But I don't know about the Machaber. Not sure, because according to him, it's a definite Nesidrabban. Is it mutter just mokum tsar? I don't know.
I have no problem to remove the shoes.
You think you have no problem?
No, I have no problem with it. I just slide it out.
Oh, is that what you mean? Okay.
But to go to the synagogue, if I don't do double knots, I find myself every 2 minutes I'm going down on the floor. So tired. Is it tsar, Rabbi?
Better to have tsar in this world.
Yes, right? So it's better to do one knot and that's it. Okay. I'm going to tie it before Shabbat and then I just slide it and that's it. Yeah. I think that's it.
Yes.
Like I was thinking about this thing. Can you tie the first tie before Shabbos and the second tie on Shabbos?
No.
No.
It's the second tie that's the problem.
Undoing of the first tie also the problem. You can undo a Kesher Shekayim.
But why is the first kayam? Why is the first kayam?
You can undo a knot.
One knot?
Oh, what was the question? Why would you
The
do
question because he's worried about if he doesn't do double knot, then he always.
So you're saying do it before Shabbat.
One before Shabbos.
Oh, do one knot before Shabbat.
One before Shabbos, and the other
Oh.
Shabbos.
No.
No, then
The second one is the main problem. The second one is the main problem. That's when it becomes permanent.
So I can do before Shabbat 2, and then it's tsar, I can undo it. Right? I can do that, right? But the next day will be only one time.
That's true. Can you do it before Shabbos?
I can do before Shabbat, and then tsar I can undo. And the next day only one. So I'm going to suffer. Every
I'm saying in advance, I don't agree to anything you're saying. So from now on, until further notice.
You cannot do that. I have no problem to do one tie from now. Hatati.
כל ההלכות האלו ולא התחלנו.
Every Shabbat I do 2.
Is there a check you have to say?
I'm trying to find it, yeah.
we'll probably get to it, but that thing about if it's a knot that you can take out with one hand, is that totally made up?
No, it's an opinion in the Gemara, it's Rabbi Yehuda, but it's not the halacha. I mean, some of the Rishonim bring him down and pass him like him, but most Rishonim don't. Okay, nothing personal, you know. Halacha is halacha, so it's not personal.
No. I'm going to follow the halacha, Rabbi. It's not
Good,
personal.
Baruch Hashem.
That's why I'm here. I'm studying, right?
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem. No one is born malach. כולם לומדים. בעזרת השם יעזור.
It is a short Siman. I should be able to do it between today and tomorrow. Okay, here I found it. Kosher Matan, Chelik Beis, of Yalkut Yosef. Kosher Shabbos, Garo, Maisim Chayiv. Kosher Sapan. It's also the kosher too, kosher Ahmed, kosher Piyaman, Maisim Kosher. Shabbos. That's interesting. That's interesting. Okay, so that would be a Mokum Heter. Okay, so he basically questions this Ramah. In other words, the Ramah brings down this idea that we're not Bekiyim in what is a professional knot, and therefore we should be strict, according to the Shittas Rambam, to consider a double knot like a professional knot, and not to do it even if you're planning to take it apart on the same day. But Machaber doesn't bring it down. So the Yalkut Yosef says that it's a chumrah. It's not a ikar adin.
So it's okay. It's no sin here what I did.
No, actually, he says it's not a sin.
I'm Navi. I know that from the beginning.
He says v'chein hamenhag lahatir. Hamachmir tavo alav bracha u'makom tzorach ein tzarich lachmir. That's the minhag, and
It's not a sin.
so it's a good thing, but you don't have to. You don't have to keep the chumrah. Okay, so that for sure takes care of it if you already made it and you want to take it off and welcome Sarah for sure. Okay, Baruch Hashem. All right, my friends. I think that's enough of an introduction. And with no further ado, we're going to read the Machaber inside, as well as the Alter Rebbe. HaKosher Ken Shin Yud Zayin B'Machaber. HaKosher Kasher Shel Kayam B'Umayse Uman, a person who ties a permanent knot, which is professional. Chayav is chayav. By the way, according to the Rambam, which is the sheet that the Mechaber is bringing down now, you have a kula and a chumrah. All right? You have a kula in terms of not being chayav if it's not professional. So that's a kula. Meaning that once it's not professional, regardless of how long you plan to leave it, it's only midrabanan. And because there may be some leniencies in some situations to allow it, as we're going to see in a Makkah mitzvah. You're allowed to make a knot that's only Asam Rabbanan. So we're gonna see about that. But the point is, just one second, the point is that there's also a chumrah according to the Rambam and the Rif. And that is that if it is professional, then it's forbidden even for a very short time. Yes.
אבל הקושר קשר של קיימה ואינו מעשה אומן, אז פטור.
כגון קשר הגמל, וקשר הספונים. The examples of a maise uman is the knot of the donkey, the camel drivers, who make this, just like the ship has that O-ring knot kind of at the end of the ship. They would make the same thing in the camel's nose, and it would stay there forever, kind of like a pierced nose thing with rope. So it would have a ring of rope coming around its neck, and that way they could just around its nose, sorry. And that way they could just, if they want to tie it to the post or to whatever, they just do a rope through that loop. It wasn't easy being a camel in those days. So
Why does it have to be?
that's the Mishnah Berurah brings, yeah. Yeah, that's how the Mishnah Berurah describes it. The kashras upon him, same thing with the sailor's knot. The kishir tzuis minel v'sandal shekoshim haratzon b'shas asiyason. So too the knots that are made by the shoemakers and the sandal makers, cobblers. Now, isn't that what they call shoemakers? Cobblers, whatever. When they are making their sandals and shoes, so they tie the straps in place. Those are professional knots that they use. If there are any similar knots, so that is chayiv. Avala kosher kesher shel kayam. But if a person ties a permanent knot, but it's not a ma'aseh uman, pater is pater.
That's what we do in our shoes.
No, the shoes is not a kesher shel kayam. It's not a permanent knot.
Oh.
Not a permanent knot. And maybe it's not a ma'aseh uman either.
But is it not kaima right now? It's not kaima. No?
Kaima means forever.
Okay, so it's not kaima.
It's not kaima. Midirabanan, if it's more than 24 hours, it's also kaima. Midirabanan. But if it's less than 24 hours, it's for sure not kaima. Yesh Cholkin says the Ramah, some disagree, Shesvirlu, that they hold Chol Kasher Shel Kayama, any permanent knot, Afilu Shel Hedyoid, even if it's not of a professional Chayav and Allah, the Chayav. Rashi, Rosh Rabbeinu Yerucham, and Tur. Rabbeinu Yerucham almost always passes like the Rosh, for your information. He was the Talmud of the Rosh. And the Tur also was the son of the Rosh, so yeah. Yeshem and some say, Shekol Kasher Shem Asalahater Ba'isa Yoim Atzmoi Mikri Shel Kayama. Any knot that you're not planning to take off on that same day is called Shel Kayama. Shel Kayama, by the way, means only Midirabanan Kayama. It doesn't actually mean Kayama Midiraisa. But it's called Shel Kayama Midirabanan. Some say that if you're planning to untie it within 7 days, it's not called Shel Kayam. So the Gemara says that an example of the type of knot that is only Asam Rabbanan is the knots of the Chachamim, the knots of the Torah scholars. Why? Because the Torah scholars, and this is kind of a reprimand for us, should be a reprimand for us, in our quest to maybe try to become Torah scholars, compare ourselves to what they used to do. It's just, it's not even on the same scale, b'chal. So he says, the Torah scholars of those days, I mean, this is how some of the Farshim explain the Gemara. they would keep their shoes on for 7 days. They would only take them off Friday night. They would stay in the base medrash. They would stay in the base medrash. They would learn.
Really good, Rabbi.
The smelling was that everybody smelled in those days. Once a week you showered, that was it.
Oh my goodness.
So
He removed the shoes, his wife is 911.
you think she showered more than once a week? Everybody, they were all in the same boat. Shalka Shabbos, that's it. Anyway, the point.
It's not like a thing.
I'm sorry?
Why didn't people shower once a week?
Simply because they didn't have plumbing, they didn't have heating.
Water.
They had water that they schlepped from the river
Which wasn't practical.
or from the well, and they had wood that they had to heat the water with, a big pot of water, you know what I'm saying? It was a big deal. Like a bathhouse was like a main event of a day, you know what I'm saying? You're taking a bath here, it's a project. Exactly, there were bathhouses and they cost money because it was such a big deal, you know what I'm saying?
Why wouldn't they keep the shoes for 7 days?
Because they didn't have time to
So
get into pajamas at night. They were busy learning the base medrash. They were tired, they went to sleep. They woke up in the morning and they continued. Nagelwasser, and that's it. That's how it was. So just the opposite.
Oh, I'm looking at 6 days straight. שהשם ירחם עלינו.
אתה לא לומד 6 days, אתה 7 ימים אתה לומד.
הם יושבים בבית המדרש.
אתה גם כן יושב.
יושב בבית המדרש, זה בשעת הלימוד.
That's what one of the Rosh Hashivas said about our level of learning nowadays. That even if we learn good, but what about Matzah Shabbos? What about Fridays? What about Bein Hazmanim? What about Bein Hasdarim? What about this? All these little times here and there that just kind of get lost. Anyway, the point is that was an example of a knot that was usher because they used to keep it basically for 7 days till, Shabbos morning till the next Friday night, basically.
Don't take a shower Friday or for Shabbat?
It's a good question. Maybe Friday afternoon till Shabbos morning.
Yeah, you have to prepare for Shabbat.
Yes. Bathing for Shabbos is proper, yes. This I agree with.
Was it a very common thing for women to let husbands learn all week in shul and then come back to Shabbos?
So it seems.
So when was
I don't know if everybody did it. But in the Gemara there are stories of people who did that, definitely, yeah. What are the stories about that?
Akiva went 40 שנה.
How much?
לא,
I'm saying you don't help with kids, they did it for the beginning of the marriage or the whole marriage?
That I don't know. Kids, what do they do with the kids? Chinuch, limud Torah. Maybe this is when kids were young, or maybe it's when the kids were older. I don't know. I really don't know.
What the halachic obligation is.
Yeah. One of the Gemaras that's not so well publicized for good reason is, I think it was Rabbi Yaakov who said he's going to yeshiva to learn. He wasn't even staying in town. He's going to yeshiva to learn out of town. He told his wife, and and she said, "What am I going to feed the kids?" And he said, "There's plenty of vegetables in the swamp." So yeah. Anyway, but I don't think that was the average thing, but nevertheless.
Yaakov was traveling to Israel, and whoever knew that he had played immediately. So I've asked him, what should I do with the kids? He said, I'm sure one of the neighbors will take our daughters and eat it. And you can knock on doors and ask for money.
Wow. Yeah. He ended up going to Israel? He did? I didn't know. For how long?
He was there he took the first Dalit Amos. After 6 months, I think it took him to get there. He was with his Shamish, Rabbi Siman. He's buried next to Arizal, not next to Yosef, Yosef.
He stayed.
That's a good question. Maybe he left to get back.
Uh-huh.
So he walked Dalit Amos and Eretz Yisrael, and he goes, okay, I got everything I needed to get. I'm ready to go back.
Wow.
So his Shabbos who went through Gehenna with him just to get there, they went on different ships and they got kidnapped and they had to cut their way out of the situation. It's a crazy story. And he told them, please, we traveled so long to get here. Let's be here for a while. So I think he was there for 3 weeks.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
Is there somewhere written, or like is this just Das Torah how much time you can be out of that? Like, what's the actual halachic obligation of a husband to help the wife with marital, not marital things, rather like house chores, not chores.
I mean, definitely one of the chiyuvim of the ksuba is to provide for the family. I mean, that's
What?
to provide for the family. I mean, it's even midaraisa.
Everything's provided. Do I have to come? I'm saying not me. Does the husband have to come home in the evenings and help with? If his wife says, "I need your help," do I have to help?
Shit money. Or
is it more like a shkafa, musar, shalom bayis? It's a very big thing.
It's more of shalom bias.
There's no actual obligation of how much you have to be home.
It's more of shalom bias.
Besides
Yeah, it's more shalom bias. But on the other hand, the women of today are expected to do more than the women of the olden days in terms of working. So you know what I'm saying? You can't go by those standards and say, well, she should do everything, because that's the way they used to do it. Considering that in the olden days the women didn't work. I mean, they worked. It says they would thread so they would spin the, what is it called? Spin the spindle to make threads. But I'm saying they didn't have to really work outside of the house. So they had time to tend to the household chores. So to say that let her do everything, it's just not right. If you're expecting her to work, you know what I'm saying? Nowadays, it just, the gashmias doesn't work. So maybe it's more than shalom bayis. Maybe it's part of the responsibility towards your children. Considering that your wife can't do everything, you have to help with that. But I'm not giving you a professional opinion. I'm just giving you what comes to my head.
It's not that a Khalid not supposed to leave the house in the night. Just to leave the house and down in the night.
Why not? First year of marriage, you're not supposed to be apart from your wife at night. Just the first year. After that,
it says that you don't have to be apart from your wife for something. Unless she gives permission. You're not supposed to go anywhere in the evenings.
You're not supposed to be away for a night.
Oh, go away for a night, but not go out in the night.
No, not go
out.
out.
Someone wants to go to, let's say, has a chavrusa.
Yeah, no. I'm talking about going away out of town.
So
Yeah, no, I'm talking about leaving town for the night. That's not mutter in the first year without permission, unless it's a makom mitzvah. That's the sefer chinam.
Rabbi, that's why the old time, the Yehuda and Shomron, there's a wife in Yehuda and a wife in Shomron, because they was traveling from place to place. And that time, not today. Two wives there.
I don't know which Gemara you're learning.
Rabbi said, one rabbi, he was going for a month, he was married in the hotel.
Only big rabbis.
Yes, I remember that story.
Only big rabbis, not the average rabbi.
Oh, when they would be away from their wife.
Yeah.
And they divorced them immediately, no?
Yeah.
Before they left?
Yeah. Yeah, but it says only big rabbis, because otherwise kids would not know who their fathers were. It would be mamzer situation. Okay. We continue and we say, a knot that is not permanent, and it's not ma'aseh uman, it is permissible to do in the first place. V'chein le'inyan hatarasa dina k'moilei k'shirasa, a very important point that the Rambam makes here. The same rules that apply to making a knot are the same rules that apply to untying a knot. You need to say, a knot that is forbidden to make by Torah level, which according to the Rambam means professional and permanent, according to the Rosh means just permanent, is forbidden to untie on a Torah level. A knot that is forbidden by rabbinic level to make because it is semi-permanent, or according to the Rambam and Rif, even if it is totally temporary, but if it is a professional knot, so those knots are forbidden to untie midrabanan. A knot that is permissible to tie, because it's completely temporary, is permissible to untie. Same rules. Ketzad haso. Nifsika lo ritzua ukshara. If a strap broke and he tied it, nifsika chevel v'kashri. A rope broke and he tied it. V'shekasha chevel bidli, or he tied a rope on a bucket, or he tied the reins of a donkey, of an animal, or is a putter. All of these are putter. So to any of these knots, which are not professional, and the average person just ties them permanently. Right? Let's say a strap breaks, a shoe strap breaks. So you tie the two sides of the strap together. You're not planning to ever take it out, but you're not a professional. The same thing, the bucket that you're using to get water from the well, which you pretty much leave there permanently. If the rope breaks, you tie the rope to itself or to the bucket for that matter, but you plan to leave the bucket there. That is an example of permanent. On the other hand, it's not professional. So according to the Machaber, following the Ram and the Rif, it is only midrabanan. So too is the same with all of the knots that are not professional. Everybody does it permanently. Okay. Any temporary knot, if it was knotted professionally, it is forbidden. Now, for the purpose of a mitzvah, for example, if you need to measure a Torah measurement, you're allowed to tie a knot that is not permanent. Meaning, say, according to the Rambam, even if it's professional, if it's not permanent, so it's not the rice, you're allowed to tie it. This is discussed in the very last Mishnah of Shabbos, where there was a dead body in a certain reshus, and there was an opening between the two reshuyos, and there was a question if the opening was the necessary size to allow the tumah to pass through from one reshus to the other.
So they're coming, they measure from city to city.
Exactly. The amount that allows the tumah to enter is what? Tefach, exactly. A tefach by a tefach. But it was high up, so they couldn't measure it easily. So they took a piece, like a piece of pottery, which they knew was that size. They tied it to a stick, and then they put it up to see if it fit in or not, to see if it was the size where the tumah spread or not. So that was a temporary thing that weren't planning to leave it there. But it was a professional knot. Now, why did it have to be a professional knot? The Magen Avraham asks. I mean, just make a temporary knot. For whatever reason, they couldn't get it to hold strong. They needed to make a permanent craftsman's knot. That's mutter. Now, the Rosh does not hold of anything special about a craftsman's knot. So according to him, the chiddush was that even though it was a knot that was going to stay for more than 24 hours, I'm not sure why they had to do that, but to figure that out, nevertheless, it was mutter for the case of a mitzvah. We have to figure out why they had to leave for 24 hours, why they couldn't just take it down right away. I don't know. Okay, So, Agos says there are more. V'yashem some say yesh lizor shalei lahat shum kesher shehem shnei ksharim zal zeh. Where's the Rosh's opinion? I thought he was going to read the Rosh. Oh, that was before. Sorry, that was before. You brought it before. Okay, that was Rashi. Sorry, I brought it before. Okay, sorry, back to the Rama. This is all within the Rambam's opinion. Some say that a person should be careful not to tie two knots one on top of the other. Nevertheless, it seems in a case of pain, it's not forbidden. You're allowed to take apart such a knot. You're not allowed to untie a double knot if it's a makom tsar. Remembering that it's only Yisad Rabbanon, and it's only also according to the Rambam, so therefore you could be made. Actually, it sounds like he's saying it according to the Rambam itself. Since it's only an Yisad Rabbanon, just like we said, makom mitzvah, legazru, makom tsar legazru. But the Mepharshim do add that it's also in consideration of the Rosh's opinion that does not hold that there's any problem with any temporary professional knot. Sorry, that which we need two knots one on top of the other. It's only if you tie two things together. However, my friends, if you make one knot at the end of one rope or one string or one thread, that is a possible professional knot anyway. Again, taking two things and you're tying them together like a shoelace, you have to do two knots for it to have strength because the two are pulling each other apart. So it's only with the second knot. However, if you have your tzitzis, which are starting to fall apart and become unraveled, here's one. No, somebody has a knot. You know what I'm saying? Yeah? The tzitzis are getting unraveled, so you want to make a knot there. Those knots are permanent, and they're even considered possibly professional, because the whole point, you asked me this before, about knots staying forever or being professional. So the point is, this knot is not going to be disturbed because it's not two things that are pulling each other apart. It's just one thing. So therefore, it is considered a strong knot even with one, just one. Now, by the way, it's not the case if you make two. If you make two, even around themselves, it's not so strong, because the fact that there's two disturbs it from really being strong. There's just too much space in between. Okay. With no further ado, let us do the Alter Rebbe. Although before we start that, I just want to point out the issue says an interesting word from Zalman Auerbach. What's the reason why when it comes to this particular malacha, you have to intend for it to last forever? We understand that it has to be the type of knot that could last forever. Okay, that we understand. Just like when it comes to writing, you have to write in a permanent way. You can't write with disappearing ink and so on. Everything. It has to be a significant act. You have to build a binyan shel kayama. Oil, maybe it's a tulda, whatever. But I'm saying generally you have to do something that has some kind of significance. So we understand that, and that therefore it has to be a strong knot. But why do you have to plan on leaving it forever? We don't say that about other things. If you select, even though you're planning to jumble it up later, it's still also midaraisa. You know what I'm saying? You can't really uncook something. But when it comes to other malachas, if you're planning to undo it, makes no difference. Binyan, planning to knock it down, makes no difference, and so on and so forth. So Shlomo Zalman explains that over here, the whole malacha is kind of not a very big change in the item. When you cook, changing it, you select, again, you're changing it. It used to be mixed, now it's its own species, whatever it is. Everything, you're dyeing something, all the different malachas change it, killing it, trapping it, you're changing the status of the thing. Here, what are you doing already? You're just connecting two things. You're not really changing anything. So if you're connecting them in a permanent way, that's considered significant. But if you're not doing it in a permanent way, it's not such an important action to be considered asum deraisa. That's just an interesting little bit of understanding to this sugya. Okay. Sorry, moving on to the Alter Rebbe. Here we go. Waiting while it loads. Sorry, I don't have the hard copy here. $317, the laws pertaining to tying knots and bows on Shabbos. Kosher v'amater, imavos melachos. Tying and untying are from the avos melachos. Shekin b'mishkan hayu tzayodei chilozon kosher matirin b'rishus seihem. Because the chilozon trappers used to tie and untie with their nets. Shekol v'shashas asuyes ksharim ksharim. All of the nets are made with knots. Then kishur kema, they're permanent. Sometimes they have to take threads from one and put it on the other. They would therefore untie it here and add it to there. And therefore, untying is also considered a malach. We need, what, 2 more for a minyan?
Yes.
I'm not sure if it was not done in the midbar, because the chilazon is a sea creature. I don't know if the Jews went to sea and trapped chilzonos, or if they had their non-Jewish trade partners do it for them. I was just wondering that when I mentioned in the beginning of this year. I don't know. Is the malachas only what the Jewish people did in the connection to preparing for the Mishkan, or was it even what the Goyim did to help them? I don't know the answer.
Shia ate a mechel barech. Ate. You pray? So I'm missing one. No pray.
One didn't pray?
We 5 no pray. And two.
But we need two people.
One of them should be no pray.
Who else can I ask besides I can ask what's his name?
Yes.
Who can I ask? What's his name again?
Your babies at home?
Kerbel. Shmuel Kerbel.
Oh my God.
They died for sure.
One down? No. Don't they have a 10 o'clock tomorrow?
Yeah, spread.
High school learners?
Yeah.
What grade is it?
11.
Oh, he's still in high school now.
My son. And this year there was the same class. And now they moved to 12 days. 12 months.
They didn't trust me.
That's why I'm suddenly inspired. Amen.
Okay, I asked Shmuel Corbell and Elchan, but we will probably need somebody else because I don't know if Shmuel is in the area. Sure, I mean, I'll tell you, in a chayev, ela kasha shel kiyama. In a Torah, a person is only chayev on a permanent knot. In downtown, already daven, working late, building. All right then. But I have number 9. I just don't have 10.
You have number 9?
I have Elchanan.
You haven't?
You have 6.
I'll ask him. We don't have 6. We have 5.
My son's doing
Okay. Minatari only chayev for permanent knot. That is going to last forever. Listen carefully to the Alter Rebbe's definition. What does it mean, permanent? There's nothing permanent in this world. Hashem is permanent. Everything else, I mean, even the sun, has as much energy as it has. Eventually, it's going to run out. Nothing lasts forever. Hashem lasts forever. What does it mean, permanent? Meaning to say that when he ties it, he does it with the intention that it's going to last as long as it can. Not going to last forever, but as long as it can. As long as he won't need to untie it. He may need to untie it, just like in the Mishkan. When they made the nets, of course they knew that they may have to untie it. But for now, they're making a net. Will they have to untie it? They don't know. That's called kayam. Even though it is possible that they will have to untie it in a close time, nevertheless, since when he's tying it, he is not having a fixed time in his mind when he's going to untie it. And it could be that it will actually stay that way forever. Right, so that is called the Kesher Shokayama. And therefore one is chayav for tying it or for untying it. But if he has in his mind a certain time that he will untie it for sure, even if it's a very lengthy amount of time. By the way, this is the opinion of the Taz, as opposed to the Beis Yosef, who suggests that maybe after 30 days is already Kesher Shel Kayama Midoraisa. He says he's not sure about it, but he questions that. He thinks that maybe after 30 days, that's it. It's Doraisa. It's not forever. It doesn't make a difference. 30 days is like an important amount of time. That's it. It's considered forever. Taz disagrees. That's what the Alter was passing. Anything that is less than forever is not forever. In theory, even 10 years. In theory. When a person has an intention that he's going to take it apart at a certain date, that's not forever. Even a very long amount of time. That is not permanent minatar. And therefore, when we pater, whether for tying it or from tying it. Yes.
Like my aniva. I tied my aniva. I don't remember when I undo it, but maybe 3 months already. I just open like that, hang it like that.
Shecha.
So this is not kaima, right?
Maybe it will be. What do you mean?
Maybe it will be. It's compared to just what I heard about now. It's if I think I'm going to remove it. But
when you make it, if you're planning to leave it,
no, I know it's coming out. Sometime it's coming out. My mind is just to not for good.
Uh-huh.
But right when I take it out like this.
Okay. You can't make such a knot on Shabbat.
You cannot make it any wash Hadashah.
No. If you don't take it apart every week, you can't make it on Shabbat. Because you're making it for more
Only
than
for
24
Shabbat.
hours. I understand that. But if you're planning to leave it 3 months, so that's already not that's
I
not
have-
on the same day.
I have 50 on Divine and Kula.
Okay.
None of them, maybe 2 or 3. I have whatever I like. It's stay all the time.
I understand, but the ones that you make and you leave for till whatever, that you can make on Shabbat.
I cannot untie it and tie.
You're able to loosen it, you can tie it or loosen
Yeah, why not?
No.
No, that's okay. I'm saying you can't undo the knot. You can't make the knot.
What's up? Sometimes if you try to put it in the hand, it coming apart. What's happening?
You have to use a different tie that you don't like, so that you'll definitely take it apart.
So it's better to take it apart and put it on every Shabbat.
Yes, that's correct. Unless you make it before Shabbat. If you want to make it on Shabbat, you have a problem to leave it like
Is
that.
that considered a knot that looks like, because most of them are just slip knots, just slide the whole thing falls apart.
So a slip knot is not a d'oraisa. I'm saying it's not a professional, but it's still, if it's more than 24 hours, it's still a problem. I understand that if it could be professional, then even less than 24 hours is a problem according to the Rambam. So I don't know which ones are considered professional, but the one that you're describing is mutter, but still not for more than 24 hours.
So what I understand, if I do it on Thursday, to
Yeah.
the kesher, and he stay for 3 months, then if I undo it by accident on Shabbat, I can tie it?
No. If it's a type of knot that you usually leave for 3 months, you can't do it on Shabbat.
I don't think to put it 3 months. Just each time I take it apart. If you put it apart, so then I have to tie it. But if not,
If you're not planning to take it off and undo it at the end of Shabbat, cannot do it on Shabbat.
I don't know.
Understand?
So far I have no problem because I take it like that and I put it back and without tight. So it's okay, right? Continue like that.
If you do it before Shabbat, you can continue like that. Yeah.
My tight is
The overhand knot, cat's paw, fisherman's bend, fisherman's knot. Look in the 39 malachas and you'll get a good sampling of knots. I just want to see what he says about ties. There is basis to classify a necktie as a form of aniva because the narrow end of the tie passes through the center of the knot and can be easily pulled out to undo the knot. The necktie knot is designed to have an adjustable loop or noose to allow room for the neck. This lack of loop is also meant to allow one to easily undo the knot between uses. As long as the loop is still somewhat open, it is easy to pull out the narrow end of the tie. Once this is done, the remaining knot simply unravels the two ends and pulled apart. However, a necktie is not completely identical to a slip knot. Because a slip knot, the knot can be undone by pulling ends in any direction. Such that the slip knot lacks the fundamental characteristics of the knot. It's not the case with a necktie in which a tight knot is formed if the loop is closed. This tight knot is not easily undone. Some poskim rule that one is forbidden to make a necktie on Shabbos with the person of kosher. However, many of the foremost poskim permit making a necktie on Shabbos if one is in the habit of untying it every day. However, if the tie is not usually undone after wearing, making the tie on Shabbat is questionable. Mata? If the tie is not usually undone after wearing, making the tie on Shabbat is questionable.
and I can make a new one
Make a new one on Shabbat,
for
correct?
Shabbat.
Correct.
No, I'm sorry, but it's a question if I undo and do it. But if I just take it like that, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. You can use the knot that was made before. That's no problem.
Yeah,
Question is, can you make a new knot?
No.
Okay. Avon. אינו עומד לסקיים כלל, אלא תיריה, מכגון שום שמע במושים ומן עליי. If it's not permanent at all, rather you're planning to take it off on the same day. For example, the knots that are in the clothing and in the shoes, in the morning you tie them, in the evening you take them apart. You're allowed to do that. The Mishnah Berurah brings up the question, Motzei Shabbos is already not the same day. It's already Sunday. Our week starts on Motzei Shabbos. Motzei Shabbos is the first day of the week. So why is it allowed? It's more than a day. So the Mishnah Berurah suggests that when it comes to this particular halacha, we mean 24 hours. You don't mean calendar day. We mean 24 hours. So therefore, the fact that you're going to take it off that night makes it not be a problem. If you're tying it on Friday night and you're planning to take it apart on Shabbos day, that's also not a problem. But if you're tying it on Friday night and you're planning to take it off Motzei Shabbos late, that's already a problem. Understand? Anytime within Shabbos is okay. Shabbos morning to Motzei Shabbos is also okay.
What about Thursday?
Friday night to Motzei Shabbos?
What about Thursday?
Thursday, you can do all the 39 malachas.
No, you tied on Thursday. On Shabbat, you try to put it in, it fell apart.
Okay, fell apart is not, you did it by mistake. But you cannot on purpose take it apart if you made it on Thursday. Because that's an interesting question. No, I take it back. Take it back. If when you made it on Thursday, you plan to leave it for more than 24 hours, then you can take it apart on Shabbat because that is a semi-permanent knot. But if you made it on Thursday, you made it. You didn't think how long you're going to leave it. And then on Shabbat morning, you want to take it off, that's okay. Because that's not considered even semi-permanent if you didn't specifically intend when you made it to leave it for more than 24 hours. Understand? Even though you left it for more than 24 hours. But if that was not your intention, that does not have the din of a semi-permanent knot.
If my intention is to remove it and it stay until next Shabbat, there's no problem.
You can, it's no problem. No problem. That's correct. Taz explains that at length. A lot of Tazes on this sugya, not so many Magen Avrahams. The Taz explains that at length. That if you plan, I said this already, but I'll just repeat it. If you plan to maybe take it off within 24 hours, but you don't specifically for sure plan to do it, but maybe yeah, maybe no. You're for sure going to take it off at some point, and maybe even within 24 hours, that's already considered temporary. It doesn't have to be that you're for sure going to be within 24 hours. It has to be that you might do it within 24 hours. It's a chiddush, but that's what he says. Okay. But if his intention is not to remove it on the day, going for example, Talmidei Chachamim shaloimdim beleilos veinam cholzim min aleim v'lei poishim b'shein b'layla. Those are the days. Like the Talmidei Chachamim who used to learn at night and they didn't take off their shoes and they didn't take off their clothes at night. Obviously, if you don't take off your shoes, you can't really take off your clothes. I mean, the truth is then they had robes, but now we have pants, we can't really do it. But even the robes, that's it. They didn't have time for that. Which is, by the way, a question that we had last time when we learned it. I don't think we ever came with an answer. The Gemara says if you want to taste the taste of death, wear your shoes at night. So what's the pshat? That they didn't care about that Gemara, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't say it's asr. It doesn't say it's asr. It just says it's not comfortable. So I guess it didn't bother them. Anyway, the point is, I assume they slept lying down. They just didn't have time to get undressed, dressed again. Just lay down on the bench or whatever. I think. Famous story with the stapler. I think it was a stapler that they found him once. His Talmidim found him once in the morning, lying on the floor right next to his bed. Exactly. It's a good word. So, The point is that assume l'koshim b'shav shachas and madam shalatin la'arvis. They, the Talmid Chacham, are not allowed to tie their shoes on Shabbos morning if they're not planning to take it off in Ma'ariv, in the evening, not Ma'ariv specifically in the evening. So too on Friday night, they want to get undressed. Too bad. They cannot undo their shoes if when they tied it back on Motzei Shabbos, they weren't planning to take it off the next night. So the Taz asks, what did the Talmid Chacham do? I mean, they had a problem. To be a Talmid Chacham, you have to not take off your shoes for 7 days, basically. That was the card into the club. Now once you're in that club, you can't take it off on Shabbos because it's a semi-permanent non. So the Taz explains, this is the basis of what I said before. The Taz explains. When the
Anybody there? Hello?